Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Easy 11 Plus lesson on non-verbal reasoning, and a special welcome to Spammer121212 in the comments who says, why am I not here? Well, you are not here because I am not here either. Because this lesson was pre-recorded, because I'm not around on Tuesday evening, but I didn't want you to miss out on an Easy 11 Plus lesson at the normal time, because when I start moving it to Wednesday or whatever, that just gets confusing. As always, please tell your friends about this channel so that as many people as possible can benefit from free 11 Plus tuition. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And oh yeah, don't forget that the worksheet for today's lesson is, as always, linked in the video description. But mainly, please tell your friends. Right, let's get started. So here we have some typical looking non-verbal reasoning, and we're dealing with figures that are reflected. Now, as I always say with these things, do not panic if you don't have some amazing sense of spatial relationships. You just need to think about doing things one step at a time. So here we're thinking about taking things from one point on one side of the mirror line and taking them to an equivalent point on the other. So let's have a look at this. We can see in the first question here that we have a black star underneath on the left. So because we're reflecting, that point, if you imagine my hand here, when I reflect it, I'm going to end up with that same point here. So flipping to the other side. So that black star is going to end up on the right-hand side of each figure like, oh, so this one has something else. So that is not the answer. Okay, the black star is here, here, and here. So any of these might be right. But we can also see that the black star is in front of the triangle. It isn't behind it. And don't forget what we're doing here, we're not turning the shape over. We're not going from there to there and moving what was on the front to be on the back. Instead, it's more like, yeah, like this. Bom, bom, if you know the ring that's only on one hand. So that thumb there moves to become this thumb here. You can see the same side of the hand, just as here we can see the same side of the figure with the triangle and the star. So what I'm getting at here is, if you look at this figure here where the star has gone behind, that cannot be correct. So we're just looking at one detail after another and using these things to eliminate some of the figures. The beauty of pre-recording is that when I go off on a coughing fit like that, I can cut it out. Right, now looking at the two options we've got left here. Now we've only got two left, so let's look at them and say what is different about them. Well, if you look at the stars, they're the same. If we look at these, they look the same. What about the other corner down here? Now we can see a bit of a difference. So here, look at the different shapes that we've got going on there. And now let's look over here. So here we can see it looks a little bit like the 5 on one face of a die, whereas here it looks more like the 6 on the face of a die. So here and here we're both dealing with what could be the 5, and so that's going to be our answer. So put a nice, clear, neat mark in the answer box. And we move on to the next question. So here is the next question. Okay, so we've got a sort of cross thing on top of a some kind of pentagon. Okay, so let's look at this. We can see there's a cross with a black bar underneath a grey bar, and we go across on the right hand side. We can see here the black bar is on top of the grey bar, so that cannot be the right answer. So already we are eliminating. Okay, what else can we look at here? Sometimes it's worth looking at the right hand side and say what's different, and then use those differences as a thing to go with. So just glancing across here, I can see that these little dots are in different places in some of them. So in two of them, the dot is on the left-hand side of the black star, and then here it's on the right-hand side. Okay, so that's going to swap round. So if we look here, it's just on the right-hand side of the black bar. So that's equivalent to these ones here, where it's on the left. It's not like this one here. This isn't a reflection. So remember, we're just reversing things across the mirror line. Okay, so over here, that dot is on the right-hand side of the black bar. So once we flipped over the mirror line, it's going to turn up on the left-hand side, which is why, we're looking at possibilities like this and this, but not this here. Okay, so moving on, what other differences might there be between A and D? So we're just looking around the shapes looking for things that are different, and I can see there's a difference here. I can see that here the white pentagon is sticking out slightly below the grey bar, whereas over here the point is completely hidden behind the grey bar. Let's look over here, we can see it's sticking out slightly below, so that matches A but not D. Simple as that. On to number 13 here. So here we've got an H, so we're looking for a backwards H. These two here both look like backwards H's, so then we look at them and we say, okay, how are they different? So we just look round these two figures here, and we can see that the only real difference is this here. It's got a line across the bottom. So then we go back to the left-hand figure. There is no line across the bottom, so that matches C, but not D. Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward one. Okay, you've got the hang of these by now. I'm not going to waste a lot of time explaining why A is wrong. It's obviously completely different. Okay, B is a rotation, right? It's been turned around through 90 degrees. That isn't a reflection in the vertical mirror line. It just isn't right. And actually looking at C, stop moving around. Looking at C, we can see the same sort of problem, okay? The shaded lines are along this diagonal, not along the vertical as we have there. So C is not the right answer either. And we go to D, it's the only possibility left. And actually D looks the same because this figure here has symmetry. So when you flip it over, it will look the same. D is the answer. On to number 15. Well, we can see that this point here is pointing up to the top left, so it needs to be pointing to the top right on the figure that we choose. So let's check all of these. D, definitely not. B, not really. We can see it's a choice between A and C. So again, now we look to the right. We look at A and we look at C and we say, how are they different? And immediately we notice that this area here is very different. In A, there's a kind of short intrusion, sort of short bay, and then C, it's really long. So now we look at the original figure and say, is it short, is it long? And we look here, and it's relatively short, it matches A and not C. So we're just going through that process. Sometimes we look at the figure on the left and then compare the options on the right. Sometimes we look at the figures on the right and say, how are they different? And then look for that feature in option A. But the key thing with all these kinds of questions is we don't try and look at everything at once. We take one detail, one feature at a time, and do a comparison. So we started by looking at this pointy bit here and then looked at the right-hand ones to see whether that could eliminate. Then, having eliminated some, we looked at these and we said, what's different about them? We noticed that bay at the bottom was longer in one, shorter in another, and then we go back to the original and use that to choose the answer. Okay, so one thing at a time. Now we've got a different kind of question to look at. The two figures on the left have been changed in a particular way. Okay, so we're talking about these figures here. Choose the figure on the right that best completes the third change by following the same process. So we have to work out what the rule or rules is or are, and then apply that rule or those rules. So here we can see immediately that there's been a reflection. Okay, that there's a reflection down, well, down sort of. That's an awful line. There's kind of reflection down there. And also that the figure on the right is larger than the figure on the left. And we check that against the second one, and yes, the same applies. So we got a reflection and it's got bigger. Okay, so now we're going to look for this triangle to reflect and get bigger. It's worth having an image in your mind of what sort of thing you're looking for. So you're looking for something that's kind of this sort of business. It's useful to have that, helps you to rule things out, because then we can immediately see, this is only an example, you know what the answer is of course, but I'm just going through it anyway. We can immediately see that these are wrong because they haven't been reflected, and then we're going to look more carefully. So we look at the line inside this triangle. So if we reflect that, it's going to be squiggly, kind of like this. Okay, it's a very, very, very rough version, but that's enough for us to see that this squiggly line here is just not right. And so B is left as our answer. That's how the example works. Again, we're doing one thing at a time. I've got to be careful I don't slump too much or I disappear down and just become a little head peeping up from the bottom of my box. Okay, enough silliness. Strawberry ice cream says in the comments, this lesson is really boring. Well, you really don't exist, so I don't care what you think. On to question 26 here. So we've got some kind of rule linking the left hand to the right hand figure. So what can we see? So we're just going to play around seeing what we can spot, okay? So, the black one really stands out. So that's on the right hand there, and then it turns up in the middle here. And we can see that the white's on the right here, and it turns up in the middle here. So, pretty reasonable to say this is black on the right here, that should turn up in the middle. So let's, for the moment at least, rule out any ones that don't have black in the middle. And oh look, that doesn't have black in the middle. Okay, I'm not absolutely certain of that, but it's pretty sure bet. Do some rubbing out so we can see what's going on again for the next thing that we look at. What was in the middle? White was in the middle, and that ended up at the bottom. Looking here, grey is in the middle, it's ended up at the bottom. Here, grey is in the middle, and so we want grey at the bottom. Okay, that's going to be B or D. So we're eliminating again. Now I'm going to look at the options you got here. We can see that in some of them, we can see that in B, you're led with the one at the bottom being nearest to the front, and then it goes front, back, back. Whereas here, the one at the top is nearest to the front, and then so it kind of built up from the bottom, one on top. I'm explaining this so badly. We're looking at the order of stacking. You can see that the order of stacking is obviously the other way around in these two. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm saying. So we're looking at B and D. Okay. Now looking over here, we can see that these are stacked up from left to right, and the same here and the same here. So that's consistent. Okay. And we can also see that these answers are stacked consistently. In other words, the top one is furthest back, jump. Trying to be going towards the camera, that's not really very clear, is it? Never mind, you know what I'm talking about. So now we want the same, okay? And that is like B here. You can see that B has the same kind of stacking order. So the bottom one is nearest to the front. Yeah, I'm trying to do this your way around. That kind of thing. I'm not helping, am I? Anyway, that's clearly the answer. Right, onwards. 27. Oh, interesting. Okay, so what can we see about these figures? So I just start looking. Let's just think about the outer figure. Okay, I don't try and do everything at once. The outer figure here, 27. Well, I can see it's a bit like an arrow pointing that way. And then I look at this one, and yes, it's the same arrow pointing that way. So have we got a 90-degree clockwise rotation going on? Let's find out by looking at the next one. So we have a theory, then we test it. So this one here, this bit here is up there, top left, and now it's top right. And everything else looks kind of the same. Yeah, so here we do again have a 90-degree clockwise rotation of the outer figure. So let's just think about the outer figure for a bit. So this kind of, whoops, what are you doing? This flying jellyfish here, it's definitely a flying jellyfish, has its back legs, because you definitely have legs on a jellyfish, pointing left. So in a 90-degree clockwise rotation, they're going to be at the front. So we're going to have the kind of pointy bits. It's going to be kind of that shape, isn't it? Okay, so that's what we're looking for. But then we go to the right. So maybe I should have looked at the right more carefully first, because all of these have the pointy bits at the top, so that's factored in. So I've just spent quite a while working out they all have a 90-degree clockwise rotation, only to discover that doesn't help me. There's a lesson learnt there. Take a moment to look at these, and don't do what I did, because you didn't need to do all that stuff of rotating the outside shape. It's kind of obvious, it's given to us in the solution. What are the differences here? There's a difference of colour and difference with the inside shape. Okay, so colour, we can see that the outer shape always keeps its colour. So clearly we're going to have a black outer shape and a white inner shape, ruling out D. Okay, it's only ruled out one though. We can see the inner shapes here are different. Now we need to look at the inner shapes in the original a little bit more and think about what's going on, how we get from the left to the right. So on the left here, let's look at the top left one. You can see that we've got a sort of pointy thing with 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, okay? Whereas here we've got one with 1, 2, 3 sides. One fewer sides. Right, let's look at this. Here we have got a hexagon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, and here we've got a pentagon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're losing a side, okay? And now we get from this, which, whoa, has a very complicated set of sides. But fortunately, I have the magic power of zoom. Yes, okay, good. So let's look at this again. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides there. So we need one with 7 sides, and hopefully there will only be one of those. So looking through these options, C looks like it's got the fewest sides, so let's start with that. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, that's what we want, isn't it? We had 8 over here. Yep, just checking. I should probably have written a note. 8. So now we're going to go to 7, and indeed with C we found one with 7 sides. That's almost certainly the answer, but let's check that the others aren't right so that we know there isn't another rule going on that we've missed. I shouldn't really have done that. I should wait until I know. Bad Robert. Okay, so here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That isn't right. And here we got 1. Main thing is to mark the one that you start with, okay? So you don't count that twice. You don't need to mark all the others. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, so the only one with 7 is C. So that's going to be our answer. Terrific. So if I can de-zoom. Oh, de-zoom too far. Oh, I still do. It's fine. Okay, on to the next one. Yes. There we go. We can all see. Another stacking one. We love these. So we can see that the order of stacking seems to be, I'm not talking about the colours, I'm saying they seem to go from top left being at the back to bottom right being at the front. Same, 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 and same, same. So anything that doesn't follow that is wrong. That's B, okay? So we got rid of B pretty simply. But Robert, don't make the same mistake. Look at the ones on the right and consider. So what's different about these? Just the order of colours from what I can see. So we got grey, white, black, black, grey, white, white, black, grey. Okay, so now let's go back and look at what's going on with the order of colours. Well, looking on the left here, seems to me that the middle one always carries a cross in those two. So I'm going to expect a grey one in the middle here. And that's, only C. There we are. So I happen to have found a rule that gets me straight to the answer. Nice. Let's just quickly have a look again. What else might be happening around it? So top left here, we've got grey on the left, white on the right, and then we swap them around. And then here we swap. So here we're going to swap. So it's going to be black top left and white bottom right. That is indeed the case in C. So C is our answer. On to 29. Again, get used to the way we're just doing one thing at a time. So sit up tall here, don't disappear down into my screen. So we got the bunny ears. I think that's, yes, they are all a bit bunny earish, aren't they? If you look across here. Okay, anyway, so here top left, we've got 2 grey ears hiding behind a big white face. And then on the right hand one, everything's changed colour and they're in front. Here we've got some ones behind. What am I doing? And here they've come out in front. Okay, so we're going to expect, the shapes are the same. We're going to expect some stars that are in front. Okay, so that rules out A, where there are stars that are behind. All the others are stars, so we don't rule those out. Okay, what else happens? We can see that in both the left-hand ones, you said everything flying around. No, calm down, Robert. In both the left-hand ones, the white circle or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it's an octagon. Okay. So the white circle or octagon becomes dotted, basically. So it's dotted rather than a solid outline. That's what I'm saying. So we're going to be looking for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentagon with a dotted outline. Okay. All of these on the right have dotted outlines. Okay, that doesn't help us too much. Again, I should look on the right to rule some of these out. I'm not being very systematic. But what else happens? We can see that, these are at different angles. So let's look at how these are moved around. We can see over here that we've got a rotation going on. It looks like 90 degrees. And here we've also got a rotation going on. Looks like 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So we're going to expect our stars to be ending up kind of over this way, okay? So that's C and D, but it's not B, so we can rule out B. So now it's just a question of, are they grey or are they black? Well, look, in all the examples, the original figure has grey things, and then it ends up black. So no surprise, it's going to be black, and that is D. Okay, I could probably simplify that a bit if I paid more attention to what was on the right and spent less time just waffling at you without any meaning. Now this one here, this looks kind of fiddly, but again, you know the technique, you need to break it down. Okay, we can see on the right there are different numbers of circles in these, so that's probably a really good place to start before we start looking at those really fiddly lines. Here we've got 3 dots, and here we've got 4, here we've got 2, here we've got 3. Oh look, we're adding 1. So here we have got 3, so we're going to have 4 over here, aren't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's going to be either A or B because they are the only ones with 4 dots. So already we've narrowed it down a lot. What else is different here? So you can see that we're actually dealing with the kind of same core layout of lines, but different things happen at the ends. Yeah, this end is the same. So we're looking at what happens around about this area here in the shape, okay? So now let's look at the original figures that we had here. So let's not worry about the dots anymore, but let's see what happens at the ends. So this here is still like that, so there's no change there. But here we can see that here it's actually got this extra line here. So look, a line has been taken away at one end of the shape. And here we can actually see the same. This here has been taken away in this shape. So a line gets taken away at one end, okay? We can see already that the change is in this area here. So the thing that gets taken away must be, if you can see it, this line there. Okay, so we're looking for the same figure, ignoring the dots, without that line. Well, this one here has actually got an extra added line in it. The one without that line, this figure here. So B is going to be our answer. Okay, so once you've gone through all the steps and checked everything, it's again quite simple, but it'd be really confusing if you just went, I need to spot the answer straight away. And now we got rotation. Choose the figure on the right that's a rotation of the figure on the left. Okay, so we've got an example here, but you know how rotation works. 41. Okay, so we're turning this around. It doesn't matter which way you're turning it around, because turning it a little bit that way is the same as turning it a lot that way. You get to the same place. Now, if we turn this around, we are still going to have a star with the same number of points, but that doesn't help us because the answers all do as well. What they do have is a different layout of these circles. We can see just straight away looking at C that this circle is way out of place, so that can't be the right answer. We can see looking at D, that's got two black circles, that can't be the right answer. So we're already eliminating. It comes down to a matter of what order they're in, okay? So we have to say, well, look, if we are looking towards the middle circle, okay, imagine yourself looking that way, you're always going to see the black circle on your right, okay? If I look at the middle circle here, I'm going to see the black circle on my right. If I look towards the middle circle here, I'm going to see the black circle on my left. So this one is incorrect. It's not a rotation. There's also a reflection going on there. So A is our answer. So it's often good, even if you aren't turning the thing round exactly in your head, imagine yourself looking at it from different angles and think, what would I see if I was inside that figure? Well, for one thing, you probably feel a bit flat because it's a two-dimensional figure. But leaving that to one side, you might have some different perspectives. Anyway, what am I on about? I always have these moments in these lessons. I think, what am I on about? What am I talking about? Why would anyone listen to this rubbish? I don't know. Maybe they aren't. Well, they aren't right now because I'm free recording it. But anyway. So here we've got a figure that looks like that. It's going to be rotated. Let's just get rid of anything that's wildly different. I mean, look here. It doesn't even go to the corner. Here, again, it's not going to the corner. Here, it looks far too thin. Oh, look, I've already done it. Okay. So just by using a bit of common sense to eliminate, I've already got to the solution. It must be this. And yeah, you can see nice big end where it meets there, and then a narrower end there. But rotated us on the other side without checking all the details. That's clearly our answer. 43 down here. Give the dog a bone with an arrow on it. So yes, we've got the arrow, and look here, there's no arrow. It's some kind of car horn instead. So that clearly is not the right answer. We've got a gap in it there. A and C have got gaps in, but D has got a dangerous looking lump. That is not the right one. Okay, so now again, let's think about perspectives. We're looking up with the arrow. The hole is on the right. That's true with A and C. Okay, let's think about that same thing a bit more. We're looking up with the arrow, and the hole is on the right and a bit forwards. Okay, A, we're looking that way, and we're looking towards the arrow. The hole is on the right and a bit down, a bit backwards. Whereas on C, you can imagine yourself looking towards the arrow, and again, the hole is on the right and a bit forwards, a bit up. So C matches, A doesn't quite match because the gap is in the wrong place. 44, look at this, fantastic, sort of dancing computer chip or something. Shows how familiar I am with computer chips. So we got our little robot computer chip character here. So let's think about, one thing at a time. So we've got the two arms, I'm calling them arms because they're near to the eye. Let's go with that. Pointing in the same direction. They're parallel to each other. Okay, that's true with A. With B, yes. With C, no. These are not parallel to each other, so that one is not correct. D, yes they are. Okay, we've already done some eliminating. Okay, looking at the legs down here, they are nearly parallel with each other. Okay, not quite. That one's going that way and this one's going that way, so they're not quite parallel. That's such terrible drawing, it doesn't help anyway. I think they don't look completely parallel to me, but they're very close to it. Okay, so we're looking for legs that are very close to parallel. Well, these here, a lot less close, I would say. I mean, I can see that's not, if I want to confirm that, look at the knee here, that's a really, really pointy knee, whereas the knee over here is a lot less pointy, it's more than a right angle. Anyway, A, not the answer. Okay, so let's again look at the angles of the legs. Here we got the legs. I'm calling the legs, what's far away from the eye, not at all parallel. Oh look, we've only got D left, so that must be the answer. And in fact, with all the things we checked so far, so the arms are parallel, the legs are close to parallel, and that knee there is quite stretched out like that knee there is. So we've got D going. Now all this nonsense about arms and eyes and legs and knees, but that's kind of how these things can work. If you're able to imagine this as some kind of being that's dancing, then you can start to think, compare the legs, compare the arms, compare the eyes, and you'll be able to relate to it and spot things that way more easily than if you're just looking at this figure on the page. So don't shy away from that kind of thing. Maybe it seems childish, but I think it can help. And the next one here, 45, another rotation. So we've got an arrow here that has a hollow head. So C and D, which have filled in heads, cannot be right. Nice and straightforward. The arrow is pointing towards a vertex, so some corner piece as it were. A cannot be because it's pointing towards the middle of a side. We're just left with B. So again, these are not very difficult questions. I'm just trying to get you into a thought process where you get used to breaking things down into their elements so that you can then consistently get the right answer without trying to do everything at once and getting confused. Okay, and that is, I think, yes, that's it for those questions. So let's have a quit. No, let's not quit. Let's hang around and have a look at my tip of the week. My tip of the week, it's a tip I've shared many times before, but it's really appropriate as we're starting to get some nice spring weather coming in at the moment. We just get outside and enjoy the fresh air and the sun and getting some exercise. Your study will be all the better for it. You'll be happier, you'll learn more, you'll be more willing to learn, and that time will be much better spent than if you just stayed in and studied for the 11+. So give your work a bit of a break, get outside, enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the fresh air, and that's about the best 11+ preparation you could do, as long as you still keep doing homework as well. And of course, here is where I take your questions. So what questions are coming in the comments? We've got My Mum's Login, who says, I love your lessons. Thank you very much. You can exist if you want to, become a real person. Made Up Name says, how do I pass the 11+ without doing any work? I don't think that question really deserves an answer. Worship the Spaghetti Monster says, please can you make a video on insert topic request? And the topic that they've asked for there actually is already a topic that I've covered in several videos on my channel. So before you sit there and think, I wish Robert had made a video on such and such a thing, have a look through my channel and look for whether I've actually already done one, because it's quite likely that I have. A really common question there from Worship the Spaghetti Monster, so worth answering here. And I Don't Exist says, why don't I exist? You don't exist because this lesson has been pre-recorded, but it's still been a real pleasure teaching you today, even though you aren't here, and the lesson actually goes out tomorrow. But it's been great. Anyway, really important thing, please tell your friends about this channel, encourage them to come along, join in these occasionally slightly strange lessons, and that way more people can have access to free 11+ tuition. And have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back live next week. Oh, and don't forget, next Saturday morning, my next short lesson, which is for the ISEB pretest. And it's really useful even if you're preparing for grammar schools and aren't doing the ISEB pretest, because the questions are really similar. The one this week is going to be all about, drumroll, verbal reasoning. Anyway, I'll see you then, and I'll see you next week for my next live. Tell your friends. Bye-bye.